Last mailbag question. I've been giving away a lot of free content, tips, guides, videos, and people seem to love it, but they're not converting into paying customers. Could AI actually help me figure out what's working and what isn't? Or is that too advanced for a small business like mine? Now, they didn't share what type of business. Where my mind went immediately, um, is the uh, ChatGPT and a Weber connection integration that was just approved, the Claude and a Weber integration, where you could use AI connected to your marketing platform to analyze what's happening. Are there certain touch points or emails or campaigns where you are seeing better engagement or click through or purchase versus others? What are some of the, I think you may have talked about this the other day, almost not giving it too much direction, but like, what are some of the, what are some of the commonalities in terms of what's performing and what's not to help you analyze, any past performance and inform and guide, future emails, ad campaigns, anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think it's a good time to talk about like when you're using connectors in chat apps. Something to be cautious of
Mm.
is there's a thing many of you probably are aware of called context. We've talked about this in the past, and it's basically the short-term memory that the tool you're talking to has about whatever task it's trying to accomplish. Um, so it's important to think about when you might be asking it to analyze something like information about hundreds or thousands of subscribers or broadcasts. It's going to have a really hard time with that because eventually the data about the thing you're asking about is probably going to overload it. So there are two ways that I would suggest that you go about this. Like if you want to analyze a big group of subscribers or a big group of broadcasts or any big groups of things. The first is you narrow it down and just look at a sample. So like
Mm.
look at my last 10 subscribers with the tag customer as my customers and see what content they engaged with. That like limits it down. You're looking at a sample, so it probably isn't representative of your whole audience, but it might give you a hint if you're trying to understand how to improve things. The other thing that is more complex and not something that you can easily do directly in Claude or ChatGPT is to take the data set. So like get an export from your Aweber account with all of your performance from your different broadcasts and ask AI to classify it. So you could use something like Claude Code or some other tool and just say, hey, I need you to classify this data and
Mm.
tell me the type or the audience segment or something. Add some simple labels to this. And then what you'll end up with is a series of let's say you're doing this with broadcasts. A subject line, the date it was sent, the segment it was sent to, and your engagement data. How many people it was sent to, how many people opened, how many people clicked, and then a list of classifying tags. And
Mm.
then what the models will be able to do with that is they won't have to look at the content of every message in your set to try and understand patterns. They can look at patterns in the classification tags. This is
Mhm.
a little bit more of an advanced way to think about this stuff, or intermediate way to think about this stuff, but it's a good one because if you're trying to ask broad questions about big sets of data through ChatGPT or Claude, you're probably going to bump into these context limits. And
Mhm.
best case scenario, it tells you that, but worst case scenario, it just gives you an answer based on its
That's
limited memory and never tells you that it was
Yeah.
excluding data.
Yeah, and I would even like, for that reason too, I would start at a simpler point, like in answering their question. Yes, AI can help you begin to identify what's going on, but I would ask it how. Like I would start with, uh, I am this business. Any
Yeah, great
contextual
idea.
information about your business, what you're doing, how you promote your business, like what channels are you specifically talking about where you're giving away a lot of free guides and videos that aren't performing? um, what do you need from me, or how can you help me analyze what's happening and identify how I can do better, and it'll guide you. It'll direct you for the most part.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the mailbag.